Hello everyone, Eva here, and welcome to the next episode of Art Side of Life, where I chat with inspiring artists and create various art-related videos. Before we go to the interview, I wanted to let you know that my course Storytelling with Color and Light is now available for you at artsideoflife.com/color. I designed the course for beginner and intermediate artists, breaking the big topic of color and light into smaller parts to help you understand the main concept so you can make your artworks appealing and believable. So check it out at artsideoflife.com/color. And now, let's go back to the interview. My guest today is Jax Sheridan, better known as Clockbirds. Jax is an artist and psychology student from Sydney, Australia, who is mostly known for her fantasy illustrations and her popular YouTube channel, where she shares speed paints and tutorials. So please welcome Jax, and let's go to the interview now. So welcome everyone to the next episode of Art Side of Life, and I'm super happy to have Jax here. Hi!
Hi! I'm super happy to be here.
Oh, thank you so much for joining, and let's just start right away with your background and usual, and let's just talk maybe about your childhood, which were like kind of your creative outlets as a child.
Yeah, sure. So I guess I started drawing back when I was pretty much a teenager. So back around 2008, that's when I got my first Wacom tablet, and that's when I started drawing digitally. So just to clarify for anyone listening, I technically don't have any formal professional training in art. Everything I've done since my childhood has been like completely self-taught. And yeah, so it's just kind of been a very passive development of my skills. And I've only kind of started drawing more seriously in kind of more recent years and, really trying to teach myself fundamentals and those sorts of things. But yeah, when I was a child, I was very much into the creating characters and comics and stories. I had this best friend back then, and we were really obsessed with this site called Neopets, where we like made all these kind of virtual pets, and we can give them like names and characters and personalities. And it was a great site because it really fostered a great creative community. And there were like heaps of these kind of drawing competitions and like kind of beauty contests, which is what they were called back then. And it just it offered a great platform, just surprisingly, for these kind of young creators like myself and my best friend to like just kind of go out and use our imaginations and create all these sorts of different characters. And that's what really got us both into sort of drawing. And well, actually, she went more down the writing path, but then I went down much more the illustration and drawing path. And it still has, I guess I kept using the site actually until like maybe 2 years ago. I think 2 years ago was when I stopped going onto Neopets. But it definitely has a very special place in my heart. And yeah, it's been like the foundation of a lot of my art from when I was younger. And it's just been great to like meet artists at a young age and share a lot of my work with other people and just, have these forums where I could just talk to people about these like creative endeavors. And yeah, that was probably my biggest source of inspiration when I started drawing as a kid. And now I've moved on a bit to more just more general animal art, kind of fantasy art. And yeah.
And so which are kind of maybe the biggest turning points or kind of the biggest decisions you had to do in order to get where you are now, like in the art career?
I guess honestly, my biggest decision came about a year ago when I started posting videos on YouTube. So I guess I've always been posting art online since I started. So since I was about like 13 years old, the old art forums, I would just be posting my little random artworks on there. And then I kind of, took hiatuses and then kind of changed my identity. We're in that weird age of the internet where, every time you go onto the internet, you're like using a username or you're like using some sort of fake name. And, that means you can just like constantly change it whenever you decide, you want a new persona. So I was doing that a lot when I was a teenager because, I was just like a temperamental artist type person. But then ever since I created Clockbirds, I think I've just been trying to create a consistent brand identity. And then it never really, it was like I started around 2014. I'm posting under the name of Clockbirds, and that was on Tumblr. And it was like a very, very slow growth. But it was like, it was organic, it was gradual. But it was only until last year when I started posting my first few speed paints onto YouTube that things kind of really, really took off. And I guess that will be like my main turning point because now it's actually starting to become a real possibility almost that I could, turn art into a potential source of income as opposed to, pursuing whatever hell I'm doing now with, psychology and uni and things like that. So yeah, I think, definitely YouTube was a huge turning point. I'm really glad I found it as a social media platform. And yeah, it really expanded more so than some of my others did initially. So yeah.
Oh, cool. And maybe for some people who don't know, maybe you can share like how does your normal day look like? What is your time split on art and on other things?
Yeah, sure. So for those who don't know, I am a full-time student at the moment. I'm currently completing my PhD in psychology. So I finished my bachelor's in psychology a few years ago, and then I did my honors 2 years ago, and now I'm in my second year of my PhD. So most of my weekdays are spent dedicated to like research and writing and running weird analyses and all that kind of stuff, to all the stuff that I need to write a thesis. But pretty much by the time I get home from work or studying, and also on the weekends, that's when the real party begins, because that's when I lock myself up in my room to just draw for like 5 hours straight until I have to force myself to go to bed. So yeah, that's pretty much, because drawing is my main hobby. I don't really see it as work. It's the thing I do in my free time, and every bit of free time I get, I'm just like, I want to draw. I want to talk about drawing. I want to like make all the content related to putting my drawings online. So all my time is dedicated to that, and also eating, because I like eating. But like
yeah, because you have also like food account, right? That is like amazing pictures.
I do have a food account. It's called Cakebirds, and I actually recently bought a really, really expensive camera so I can take higher quality pictures of my food, because I really like food, and like my dream in the future is to get like a popular enough food account that I'll start getting like invited to restaurant openings to eat at restaurants for free. So that's like living the dream right
Maybe
there.
You can illustrate some food as well, combined with the characters, and then an illustrated cookbook.
Yeah, definitely. It was one of my ideas, like just way back. That idea kind of fell through, but Cakebirds was actually supposed to be what it meant in the name, Cakebirds. And initially, I was illustrating cockatiels, which are these kind of like little mini parrots. I was basically illustrating them as desserts and kind of doing like little puns with birds and desserts. And I was like totally on this game about, I can like sell this as merch, and like that would be like the coolest idea ever. But then I just didn't have time to continue with that project. Maybe one day I will live the dream and draw birds as desserts and make a living out of it. But for now, we'll just put that to the side and just focus on what I'm doing currently.
Oh, cool. And with the artworks now, you are doing commissions, right? And the maybe even the sports videos, or what are your maybe incomes from art now?
So I guess, my main source of income would be commissions. Mm-hmm. I'm a bit late on the whole, I know, because freelance artists, there are a ton of ways to earn an income nowadays. And right now I'm just sitting on commissions, and I'm like, I completely missed the whole Patreon and merchandise and Etsy train. Like that went past a way long time ago, and I'm still like, I just found popularity, and now I'm just like, now I need to actually build all these other platforms where I can actually get an income. So totally have not done that yet. Do plan to do that in the future, but like at the moment, it's just commissions and building my clientele and my, I guess, trust within the artistic and commissioner community, which is always a good thing. And then I guess, right now, just commissions.
Oh, cool. And then later, maybe your fans can find you on Patreon as well, as you mentioned, or other merchandise.
Yes, hopefully. I am working on that very slowly, but it will be coming, hopefully. Yep.
Oh, perfect. And your specialty is animals, right? Or do you draw also the other characters? Or how did you choose, like, okay, I want to draw this?
Yeah, so I guess Yeah, if anybody looks through my portfolio, it's pretty much all animals, sometimes animals with like human bodies, but like mainly animals. Yeah, I don't really like drawing humans that much because I find faces incredibly difficult to draw. You know the uncanny valley where it's just like it looks almost human but not enough, and that makes it look incredibly creepy. I just every time I draw humans, I hit that point, and I just can't seem to get past that point. It's just like every time I draw a face, it's just like it's so uncanny. Like, is it trying to be human? Is it not human? It's like I don't know what's going on there. So humans have just been something I've been avoiding for like the past 10 years of my drawing career. I do very much like animals because fundamentally, just at a basic level, I love animals. I love how there's so many variety and how animals have all these different textures and how you can just like throw them into like a natural landscape and make it all pretty, and it's all like, oh, so lovely. And I used to love watching David Attenborough documentaries, and those used to be my like favorite TV shows to watch. And the filmography and everything about the way animals were depicted against their natural habitats were just like absolutely amazing. So I'm just like big on animals, and it's like I'm glad I have that niche to tap into, I think. So like if I had to choose between humans and animals, I would always just go with the animals. So yeah.
Oh, really cool. And what is your maybe the art process? If you can share maybe some of your like steps. Do you do like research and thumbnails and maybe color palettes before you start?
Well, I do always try to do a bit of research. I find it really hard to just kind of like jump into a drawing and just be like, go like, you know, complete tabula rasa and don't know what I'm doing and just do a sketch.
Like,
yeah. I mean, sometimes like it's like if something comes up from the top of my head, I'm just like, oh yes, that's a good idea. I can just totally jump into it. But like usually I do try to pick out some color palettes. Usually I will always have something quite specific in mind. I love complementary color schemes. So like purples and golds and blues and oranges. Those are like my main go-tos. And so usually I will have something really, really specific in mind, and then I'll try to aim for it when I start painting. And usually sometimes I'll look up references just to make sure I get the colors extremely right. Usually whenever I try to just kind of pick it from the top of my head, it always turns out just slightly off the hue I'm going for. Then I have to use color correction afterwards to try to like fix up everything. But so references are always very helpful, and then color palettes, and then also a lot of research into things like anatomy and poses, and just if there's like it's really, you know, tree and foliage heavy, then I usually have to look all those up just to make sure I can get those correct. Otherwise, yeah, I can't draw most things I can't draw from memory. I definitely still need to use a lot of references and kind of educational renderings in order to make sure I get everything's right.
Yeah. But I kind of assume, but also from the discussions what I had with so many different people, that 80% or even more people still use references for everything, because, you know, if you don't draw like, I don't know, like owl every day, you just don't know the anatomy by heart.
It's so terrible because like I feel like when I was still developing as an artist, there was some weird stigma or like taboo against using references, and for like the longest time I just kind of refused to use references in all of my drawings. I feel like that really held me back from improving, because it was like some weird artistic pride where I'm like, well, if I'm going to be a true artist, I can't possibly use references. Like I need to draw this just like right from my mind if I'm like a real artist. But but clearly not true. Use references, guys. Like that's really helpful.
Yeah, because then, as you mentioned, just to do maybe the sketches, so you have the idea in mind, right? So if I know, like, okay, I want to do like, I don't know, jumping wolf, so I know that this is somehow how it would be, but then you can still check like, okay, how is the anatomy of the leg if it is touching the ground or something like that.
Yeah, exactly. Good idea to check. Yep.
Before we continue, let's thank our sponsors. Are you looking for a top quality print shop and online store to sell your art prints? Then you should definitely check out InPrint. InPrint has been helping artists print and sell gallery quality prints of their work all over the world for over a decade. Created by artists for artists. InPrint ensures that you as an artist get your artworks printed in the highest quality and you earn the highest percentage compared to the others in the industry. The online gallery at inprint.com is curated by the members, resulting in a beautiful and unique collection of work. Support your favorite artists, discover new ones, and start selling through your own gallery today. And because you are part of Outside of Life community, you will get a special 10% discount with the promo code ARTSIDE. Don't wait, visit outsideoflife.com/inprint and use promo code ARTSIDE. If you love discovering and trying out new art tools, you should check out Art Snacks. When you subscribe, you will get a box of high-quality art supplies every month. I have already discovered so many amazing new products, limited edition tools, and exclusive supplies only available to subscribers. Art Snacks definitely helps me to get more creative and try different art techniques every month. There is also Art Snacks Challenge, where you can share your artworks using only the tools in the monthly box. You also get to join the Art Snacks Mix community, where you can talk with other artists like you, inspire each other, and improve together. And because you are part of Outside of Life community, you will get a special 10% discount with the promo code ARTSIDE10. So don't wait, visit outsideoflife.com/artsnacks and use the promo code ARTSIDE10. If you are a digital artist, you will love AstroPad. AstroPad is an app that turns your iPad Pro into professional wireless graphics tablet for your Mac. I use it to work with Photoshop and Illustrator to create highly rendered artworks for my clients directly on my iPad. I was super excited to discover AstroPad because the painting apps available on iPad don't have all the functionality like Photoshop. With AstroPad, I can use all my favorite and custom-made Photoshop brushes, which is super cool. And because you are part of Outside of Life community, you will get an exclusive 10% discount on AstroPad Studio licenses. To get started, go to outsideoflife.com/astropad and enter the promo code ARTSIDE. And now, let's go back to the interview. And so what helped you to develop your skills the most? Did you go maybe to zoo and sketch animals, or like do you have some book resources you want to recommend?
I think yeah, just getting I'm always looking at art. So whenever I start off my day, usually because we're all in like that social media consumed world. So like you get up and you turn on your phone. Well, your phone never really actually turns off. You're just like you get your phone out of sleep basically, and you go onto Instagram, you go onto DeviantArt, Tumblr, whatever, and you just scroll through your feed. And usually that's where I just get most of my learning out from. It's a very passive kind of form of learning, I guess. But I just find just looking at a lot of different art and just like whenever something, because you're looking at so much, it takes a lot for any piece of art to just really catch your attention. Mm-hmm. And anytime it does happen, I'm just really, really kind of studying it and just really trying to find out why it's capturing my attention and my imagination the way it is, and really trying to like kind of dissect and break it down and being like, how can I take whatever this thing is that's like making it so appealing to me and like transfer it into my own art. So I do love just looking at a lot of different art. Another way I think people can really...
Can you give us maybe some example of the maybe art type or something you were studying and like, okay, and now I want to see how this is done?
So I think one of the main things I always look for is use of color. Mm-hmm. So one thing I think a lot of people recognize about my work is like I always use very, very vibrant colors, and it kind of annoys me sometimes because like I often see a lot of just amazing art, but they use a very limited or very kind of desaturated color palette, and it still looks just so vibrant and amazing and just like eye-catching. And they don't, really emphasize like really high contrast. They're like sometimes really, really low contrast, and sometimes they just have really nice muted colors, but they just look so amazing. And I'm just like, oh, I don't know how they do this. So I think that's like that's like something that I'm working on right now, just trying to find ways to kind of tone down the hyper insane color palette and just to be a bit more muted, a bit more controlled in the way I apply colors and use tones in my work. So I do like every time I do find something that just uses a lot of colors, but also does it in a very controlled way. That's something I would really try to, I would save that image into my folders and then come back to it later to try and dissect it, look at the histograms and all the color balances and all those kind of things just to see exactly what they're doing to make their drawing so appealing.
Ah, cool, cool. That's actually really interesting idea as well to see the histograms and colors and the levels, maybe how it looks actually, even also like black and white and values. So
Yeah, exactly.
how that
It's
works.
interesting because I study as part of my psychology thesis. I'm actually studying aesthetics, and part of it is actually how our visual system processes the images we see and what makes that aesthetically appealing to us in a subjective point of view. And one of the ways we try to kind of test this is basically looking at the very narrow statistical properties of images, which computer technology has now allowed us to do. So things like histogram, but also like, file size, that's a good indicator of things like complexity, and using those to kind of try to gauge what exactly about a piece of artwork at the most fundamental levels make it appealing to our eyes. So yeah, no, it's a really interesting topic.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I mean, if you want to share more about the perception of the colors and images, you can share. It's super interesting, I think.
No, I think we'll leave it because it's like talking about work now. So like, we'll just leave that at work.
Oh, perfect. And then do you have like different folders maybe for, like different types of art? Like, I don't know, these like sunset tones, or do I have like a really interesting rendering of fur, or do you kind of structure your references in some way?
Surprisingly not. Most of my references are just photos, like landscape photography. Usually, those photography just already just come with the most amazing color palettes. So I just have a bunch of them saved into like a single folder, just like it's just called photos, and it's just basically a bunch of landscape photos. And I also want to be like a landscape photographer because it's like, oh, it'll be so cool just to go out to the mountains one day and be like, oh, take photos of this beautiful nature. But it's like those are really, really helpful for just picking colors. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, because it's always really interesting to see, like, okay, where do you want to go with your like art career or other creative career types, right? Because if you mentioned you have like landscape photography, you have food photography, you have your artworks. So how do you set your goal maybe for the future, or what are your thoughts of developing your skills even further?
Well, I'm not actually sure what my current goal is. I think I always set goals for myself at the start of every year, but I never seem to actually be able to achieve them. I think drawing humans was like one of my goals for last year, which I clearly never achieved. But at the moment, I think it's just like composition and just making more compelling compositions. Things like perspective, which I'm also still having a lot of trouble with. One of the main things that I kind of like regret about the way I learned how to draw was it was very much a focus on the stylistic aspects of the artist who influenced me rather than learning from the fundamentals. So because I feel like that's what one can get from things like art school, because they really drill into you things like the fundamentals and like composition and values and the importance of shape and perspective. Whereas coming from what I am, it's like whatever 13-year-old me thought was appealing by some 15-year-old artist on Neopets, that was just like my eyes were sparkling and I was just like, oh my gosh, it doesn't matter. This what is supposed to be a wolf that has the anatomy of a cat, they are better at drawing than me, so clearly they are right. So for ages I was just like kind of copying them and being like really inspired by them, even though technically what they were doing were like fundamentally incorrect. And I'm still like trying to grapple with all this incorrect knowledge I have accumulated and developed my artistic skills over for like these past 10 years. So we're still trying to, work on that, trying to repress all those clearly incorrect things I learned as a child and, trying to get back into the fundamentals and really try to build another more secure base of drawing skills on top of that.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, because your like artworks are amazing with the color and mood. So that's
Mm,
what usually I guess the viewers are kind of drawn to, and then
yeah.
how you kind of either improve the perspective or the anatomy. Then it's just like adding to like stronger piece
Oh
with that
yeah.
mood what you already have.
Yeah. It would make me a lot happier if I could like get everything just 100% perfect. So yeah.
But
Yeah.
we are always learning and forever improving, So it's never
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah, no, that's the constant cycle. It's a constant cycle. Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. And do you also think about the color palettes in the way like, okay, I worked with these like maybe bluish tones in my last piece, and the next one will be other color palette which is a bit further away from that?
Oh yeah, definitely. Because you know how Instagram, it's like it's all done in, it's all curated, and there's like little square thumbnails. You got to think about those kinds of things. Otherwise, you don't want a big chunk. Like you don't want a row of the same color work, and there's like if someone's scrolling through your gallery, they don't want to see that. They want to see like pops of variety. So yeah, I definitely do think about that. And plus, it's like once I finish a work that says, for example, has like a predominantly blue and orange color tone, I'll get bored of the blue and orange color tone. It will satisfy my blue and orange color tone cravings. So then I'm like, okay, well, we can move on to other cravings now. So I'll definitely try and work with other colors as well.
Ah, cool. And what about the color references? Do you have like, if you want to, you mentioned the photography, right? The landscape photography. So do you start with a sketch of the kind of the layout, and then you try different color palettes? As you mentioned, like, okay, I have a clear vision of this one, but how do you work with the color and light? Is it based usually on one photography, or you combine different ones?
Mm. Well, yeah, I think usually I just work with one because if I try to combine different ones, then somehow the idea gets a bit muddled. So I usually aim for simplicity first and then maybe add accents as I see fit later. If I don't start working with a color reference, so if I just kind of start picking colors on my own, then the program I'm using, it has like, the basic hue and saturation function. So if anybody watches my speed paints, you can just sometimes see me just playing around with that, and you'll just see the drawing just going through every single color of the rainbow until I finally just decide, oh yeah, no, this one's the right one. And then I also use blending modes a lot. So things like multiply and overlay, screen add, those are really helpful in just kind of adding broad estimates of what the lighting or shadows should look like. And then there's so much color correcting in my work because I'm like, it's like the main thing that's like a continuous process throughout the entire piece. So like as I'm detailing and whatever, then I'm also always just constantly color correcting. And then once everything's finished, so the program I use is Medibang, which doesn't have the most sophisticated things when it comes to color correction. So then usually I export it as a PSD into Photoshop, which has, curves and color balance and photo filters and all the good stuff. And then usually I'll usually spend about a good half an hour in post-processing just to make sure all the colors are right. There's nothing that has like weird values, and just making sure everything's just like well balanced and it matches up with what I had in my mind in the very first place. So yeah.
Oh, really cool. Yeah, I mean, that's always really important to check, as you mentioned, the values and see how everything works together without being distracted by colors, and just see like, dark and light part of it.
Yeah.
And do you maybe have some favorite books now as well about either the storytelling or animals, or something you would give as a gift to like other creative friends?
I just got this recently. It's Principles of Creature Design by Terrell Whitlatch.
Ah, cool.
Anyway, yeah. So I think I was watching another YouTube channel, and one of them they recommended it just to it's about how to make convincing fantasy animal designs. It's like animals that don't exist, but then when you're making them, making sure their anatomy is, I guess, convincing and kind of realistic. And so it has just amazing, just really vibrant illustrations. And it also has like a bunch of things like anatomy sketches of like skeleton and muscle and all these other kinds of things, which are I think is just like absolutely fantastic, and something that I could really, really use, because as someone who's just like, I guess even when if I'm not completely drawing a real animal, then just like it's just really useful to have that as a reference to know what limits I can push to make sure the anatomy is still convincing and kind of semi-realistic, even though I'm not like going for 100% realism.
Yeah, definitely. Because also I've been to one of the classes from Teriel, like the like live
Really?
classes, and yeah, and she was explaining as well like the muscle structure and the bone structure. If you would have a like six leg on the horse, how the leg, where would it be attached, what would make sense, and yeah, so
I mean,
quite
it's just like the most complex thing. It's just insane.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, technical. And how do you do your networking now? Do you go to some events or everything is online, or do you have some recommendations from your experience?
Okay, so the thing with networking is I am a staunch introvert. It's like, so networking can be very difficult. So like the things you're doing, like you're like asking people to have interviews and things like that, like I could never ever do because it's just like utterly terrifying for me. So like for, just advice for like, other potential introvert artists out there. Um, there are like, a couple of very passive, low energy ways of, just trying to get noticed in the community. So when I was starting out, about last year when I just finished creating my YouTube channel, so this was like way in the starting days, and this was before like any of my other social media have really taken off to any kind of reasonable extent. But I decided 1 month that I needed to get more attention to my art. I needed to, start networking and start kind of building more of an audience for it. And so I bought this little like diary thing. And basically what I do, so it sounds stupid to anyone who, just does this on a daily basis, but like for an introvert like me, it was just like, oh, it's just like a real commitment. So I bought this diary and basically every day I made it my goal to make 5 comments on like like 5 different pieces of artwork across all my social media pages. So at that time, I think I had 5. So it was like DeviantArt, Tumblr, Instagram, for Affinity, and YouTube. So my goal was like for every day, I needed to watch or like view 5 pieces of art, videos, whatever, and then like make a comment on each of them. And that was like my kind of way of being like, oh, I don't want to, actually talk to people in like a back to forth communication because that's like too much stimulation for me. So, but it's like this like just kind of passive way of just like, I exist. I like notice I am commenting and just like being a nice, pleasant, pleasant presence. I think that actually like I can't really say how much it really helped in the end, but like it did give me a few shout outs, and those are actually incredibly helpful and just like incredibly just inspiring when you were like just an artist like me just starting out with like their 100 followers or something on on Instagram. So I'm just like yes, shout outs is good. So that was helpful, and it made it made a few friends and gave me new people to watch and things like that as well. So networking is good, but it's definitely an extrovert's game, which can be a bit hard. But introverts, we can come into this game and win too. So yeah.
Yeah, exactly, because you can find the ways which you are comfortable with, depending on the level of like how extrovert or how introvert you are. Because also if you go for a convention, you can have a table and people come to you, so you can be more relaxed and not to run to other people like hello.
Yeah. Oh gosh, convention is like horror situation. It's like
it's the next level.
It's this next level. I have never even considered applying to be at a convention, but it's definitely a good place to do a lot of networking and like meet people who love your artwork. But yeah, it's just like, oh gosh, that's a lot of people. It's big crowds.
And if you think about like from the time you started on your art career, like what was maybe most difficult time, and what was the takeaway from this? Like, what did you learn?
Okay, so there are many difficult times as artists because, artists, we have art blocks and we get busy. I think one of my worst struggles was when I didn't have any time to draw. So, or if I just wasn't really feeling it. And then I would just go on these massive hiatuses where I just didn't draw. I think the longest I went was about a year and a half after like around 2014. I just completely stopped drawing. And that was mainly because like when I was in school, like in high school, very small pool, big fish. It was like I was probably the best artist in my grade. So I was like, had this like weird delusion. I was like, oh, I must be the best, like just forever, like all the time. I just must be the best artist and better than anyone else. But then, found the internet, many talented people on the internet. So, and it's like, that was a bit of a stake through the heart because I was like, oh, I am clearly not the best in this world. It's just like, and then I was just like, well, what is the point now? It's like, if I can't be the best, then it's like, I should just move on and just do other things. So I think it's like, as a young artist, that was like, clearly just a terrible mindset to have. Like, no artist should have that mindset. That's like just bad. Don't, it's like, get yourself out of that. But yeah, so when I was younger, I definitely did have that kind of holding me back. So then whenever I stopped drawing, trying to get myself back into it was probably the most difficult thing, because then I was just thinking, oh, well, now you just wasted like 1.5 years not drawing. Now imagine like what you could have been. Like, if you didn't stop drawing, there's like, you could have been so much better by now. And you had to pay, like catch up, trying to like get back to where could have been. And that's also just a really bad mindset to have, because like, no, it's like, so don't think like that. It's like, you are where you are now. Just start drawing. It's never too late to start drawing. And I think that advice can just apply to anyone. It's never too late to continue or start drawing, to start learning it. And by the time you're older, wiser, hopefully, like me, and by the time you get to this stage, you're like, it doesn't even matter that it really doesn't matter if you're not the best, or if you're like technically not the best of what you imagined yourself could have been if you didn't stop drawing for that amount of time. It's like, as long as you continue, as if you persevere, you get back into it, then that's always going to be a good thing.
Oh, really nice. Yeah. And do you have like some rituals which help you to continue and kind of keep yourself motivated like every day?
Well, YouTube has definitely been a really, really good thing to keep me motivated, because now I kind of have this weird social pressure where I've kind of built up that I'm kind of, uploading every single week, at least once a week, I guess. So I actually have a calendar now where I kind of plan 1 month in advance when a video is going to come out, and I plan for like every week in that month specifically what I'll be drawing for that week. And I actually but I actually found it to be a really helpful ritual, just like when I did Inktober last year, which was my first time doing Inktober, I guess, successfully. I actually did complete it for the entire month,
awesome.
Which I was like, I know, I was completely shocked. But I did find it was probably because I prepared for it in advance, and I wasn't going into it each day just not knowing what I was going to draw. Like, I could pretty much prepared every day, generally the idea I was going to draw, and then I usually also sketched it out about 2 days in advance. So I would just, wouldn't have a blank sheet of paper staring back at me the day when it came to the day where I was supposed to draw it. So now I'm just basically taking that mindset and applying it to what I'm doing now. And so for the next month, I have like giveaway prizes. I have a couple of commissions as well, and then also some personal projects as well. Just for every week, there's about 2 drawings that should get done and hopefully will get done in that week, and then I can upload them. And that's pretty much my ritual. It's like, you have to do this because you need to upload something for the people. It's like, people will be disappointed if you don't upload something. So it's like, upload something for the people.
Oh, perfect. Yeah, that sounds really nice, because then you can always know like, okay, well, this is coming, and this is when I can complete, and how long will it take me and everything, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, super cool. And let's talk about the future. And I would like to know, like, what are your dream scenarios maybe for 5 to 10 years, maybe projects you would like to work on, or where do you live?
Yeah. Okay. So for the near future, it's right now Patreon and getting merchandise up, because I would love to turn this art thing into a moderately sustainable career. It's hard to say what a sustainable career is, because I was actually listening to this podcast, and I think you had Steve Arn on, and he was talking about like the pressure from Asian families to become a doctor, to become a lawyer. And I can say 100% this is not a myth. This is completely true and universally applicable across all Asian families, including myself. So as I was saying before, I am currently in my PhD to become a psychologist. So in my mum's mind, she's like, "Oh, clearly she's going to become a psychologist," and it's like, no, that's clearly not going to happen because I hate people. No, I'm kidding.
Sounds great.
Yeah. Yeah. So so hopefully we'll see how this art income thing turns out. But I really do hope I can, turn it into a real thing. And because I would love for this to become a full-time job, whether it is achievable or not, but it'll be really cool. And I guess in the long term, if this doesn't become an achievable job, I would actually love to work for Adobe. I've been actually thinking about it recently. It's just like, I love their products and their values and everything they make. And I've been using their program since I was like 12 years old. And I feel like my background in my psychology degree could really help me, do research, maybe do like marketing, something like that. I don't know. Anything working with Adobe would be really, really cool. So that's like potential dream goal if these other, more artsy related things don't work out.
Yeah, because maybe you can combine, your psychology skills with the color perception as well for creating your art, so you can teach other artists how, this actually works and so all of that. So you can combine all of your skills from your background and current painting
Pretty much
skills.
been my goal for like the last 3 years, trying to figure out a way to combine my degree with art. Like, I don't know how it's going to work, but I'm somehow going to mesh them both together and make this work for me. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's perfect. And what about super far, far future, like 100 years from now? What would you like to be remembered for?
I guess I was looking at this question and I was just like, I don't know. It's a really hard one to answer. I guess I was going to say being the artist who could never stop painting ridiculously vibrant, colorful things, no matter how hard she tried to turn it down. But, hopefully that won't be the case. Hopefully I will, eventually figure out how to turn it down. But I guess, I don't know how long the program Medibang will last into the future. I guess we'll see. Programs tend to live and die, and they have a life cycle. But if, the program does, continue to persist, I would like to be remembered as an artist who managed to turn, a cheap, free, it's free, it's not cheap, it's free, a free program that a lot of people tend to, look down on. I always get comments like, how do you make this artwork in, such a bad program? It's like, it's not a bad program if you learn how to use it properly. So I would love to be, just be remembered as someone who can, make cool stuff out of free things.
Oh, really nice. Yeah. And before we maybe finish, you can share last piece of advice or key takeaway, and then we will slowly end.
Yeah. Okay. So basically, it's never too late to start drawing, whether it's for the first time or after a long period of not drawing. You don't need to be the best at something to make it actually worth doing. I think social media, even though it's an extrovert's game, to my fellow introverts, you can make the game work for you, you can play, and you can win. And anything can happen. I think one of the most important things I learned is you just throw your art into the abyss that is the internet. And, maybe during those first few weeks or months or even years and you don't get any notice or any feedback, don't be discouraged. Just keep posting and do it on as many social platforms as you possibly can. Because, every social platform has different demographics and different people and different interests, and you never know which one is going to have the right people for you. So just throw it into every single social media program and just hope it will just maximize your chances of it being seen and picked up and reblogged or retweeted by the right people, and then you can slowly build your audience that way.
Yeah, I totally agree. That's really nice, and because you can think about what can you bring for each audience, right? In a different social media.
Yeah, exactly.
Super cool, and thank you so much again for being here. It was so nice.
No worries. Thank you for having me. This is I don't think I've ever used the camera on my computer to do a phone. To do a video call before, so it's just super novel. It's oh, I didn't even know I looked like this on this computer.
See?
But it's
so
cool,
from now on, all your YouTube videos will be with your face.
Yes, exactly. Oh, hopefully
Perfect.
I will work over the social anxiety and get those
I'm
up.
sure
Yeah.
you can do it, and just creating your awesome artworks, and I'm sure your fans will be super happy about it.
Yes, hope so. Cool.
So
Thank
you again, and thanks everyone who joined today as well, and see you guys in the next episode. Hey guys, thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate you being here, and if you enjoyed this video, please subscribe because I post new videos every week. I will be also super happy if you let me know your thoughts in comments and give the video a thumbs up. You can find all the resources mentioned in this episode at artsideoflife.com. Just type a guest name in the search bar. There is also a couple of free artist resources ready for you. So if you want to listen to the interviews on the go too, make sure to check out the podcast at artsideoflife.com/podcast. Continue to inspire each other, and I will see you guys in the next episode. Bye!